This is the CNC Geekcast, the podcast where two guys with speech impediments talk about movies. I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
And on today's episode, we'll be talking about the new Marvel movie, Spiderman Homecoming. We're going to be talking about the plot, the characters, and how this Spider-Man movie compares to the other ones. So stay tuned! Okay, you know the thing I love about the beginning of this movie, and I mean that like when the Marvel logo came up, how they play the Spider-Man theme.
I loved it too, because it took me a second to realize. I was like, wait, what is that music? Mm-hmm. And then it clicked, and I started singing it in my seat and doing a little dance.
Exactly. I mean, I do enjoy how Marvel does the small things like that. There's just not every single thing is the same. You have that classic Marvel music that they have for all the other ones, but this one was unique, and I like that.
I really did too. I would like to say that for more films, but I guess not every character has those distinctive themes, because everybody knows the Spider-Man theme.
Now, before we continue on Spider-Man, I just got to talk about this. What did you think about the DC one before Wonder Woman? Did you like that one? The DC logo?
Truthfully, I hate to say it, I don't remember it that much.
Well, it was new. We haven't gotten used to it yet, but I think I do like it. It does.
I like the idea of them having one. It's kind of like, hey, welcome to the DC Cinematic Universe.
Exactly.
That's what this Marvel logo always feels like to me. It's like, hey, welcome to another adventure within the DC. It's like a door opening, so to speak.
So, but speaking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what did you think about the plot of this movie and how it just unraveled?
Well, I don't want to talk about it yet.
Okay.
I want to give our audience a warning.
Oh, yes, the classic warning.
This movie just came out a couple days ago. If for some reason you haven't seen this film yet, I don't know why you wouldn't have seen this film yet.
They probably just kind of didn't get around to it. We're going to go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But get out there, watch the film, because there will be spoilers if you listen beyond this point.
And if you want to know what our thoughts are, on your way home, hook it up to the sound system and just listen to us on the way home.
Yep, sounds like a good idea to me.
All right, now let's get to the plot. What did you think of it?
I liked how simple it was. It was basically a coming-of-age story, just with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because we saw him grow. In Civil War, he was just starting out in the hero journeys. He had only been at it 6 months. Mm-hmm. So he kind of got sucked into something much larger than he was. And in this, he's still trying to come to terms with that. And we see him grow from someone who's frankly bad at being Spider-Man.
Yes, this goes back to the Indiana Jones type of character. One of the things that makes Indiana Jones charming and so fun to watch is that the fact that he's way in over his head. And you can tell this by some scenes. It's like he may make a jump and you're like, oh, he's going to make that jump. But then he trips and he's almost hanging from fingertips. And it's like, oh, he's not as good at it as, you would think he is.
Yeah, and the same thing happens at the start of this movie in the opening scenes. We see Spider-Man stop a bicycle thief, but he has no idea
who owns a bicycle, and then he says, does anybody have a pen or paper? And he writes it down and says, if this is yours, please pick it up, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then we see him try to stop a dude from breaking into his own car.
Exactly. And everybody gets onto him. He's like, I'm sorry, I was only kidding. And
even Stan Lee gets onto him.
Yes, that was funny. And I love how Stan Lee makes these appearances in these movies and how, how organic that is.
We all know it's coming, but I love how it's always walked in, and it's like, hey, there he is. It doesn't draw attention to itself.
Now, I mean, you know Stan Lee, but it's like, okay, hey, Stan Lee, it's no problem. It's like the Deadpool.
It's like the
Deadpool 2, well, he's like he's next to the phone booth, and Deadpool actually says, shut it, Stan Lee, and then starts running toward. That's perfect for Deadpool. But getting back to Spider-Man, what did you think of the villain's story?
One of the things that I loved about this was the fact that the film opened with the villain's introduction. Mm-hmm. First off, it's Micheal Keaton. You may not know Micheal Keaton's name, but you've seen him in movies. He's a Best Actor winner. He's won Academy Awards. He was in Spotlight, which won Best Picture. Mm-hmm. He was in Birdman. He's in all these fantastic movies.
And he was in the Tim Burton's Batman. He was like one of the, other than not Michael Reeves, but who was the 1970s Superman? Reeves? I know it was Reeves somebody. No. Christopher Reeve, that's it.
No, that was Superman.
Superman, that's what I meant is Superman. I mean, you know what I meant. Christopher Reeve. And then Michael Keaton was the Batman. So these are like legendary actors that started off this entire, superhero movie thing. And he was like one of the first that actually has been around a very long time. So it's really interesting how he came full circle. He was a superhero, now he's a villain in a superhero movie. And I really do like how that, he's one of the veterans of,
I really enjoyed that they introduced him so early, Because it was like Marvel acknowledging the fact that they have a problem with villains. Because truthfully, they do not have a lot of compelling villains.
No, this is.
And in this, they opened and they immediately acknowledge his plight. He was Micheal Keaton.
He was a blue-collar business owner who basically employed blue-collar workers, just trying to make a living. And I do like how it starts off with the cleaning of New York City, and how he was just trying to pick up all the alien technology, and he was going to make a couple of money off of it. He got a big order in of bulldozers coming in, and basically the government comes in, or agency comes in, don't know what agency they're part of, and says, we'll take it from here. And
it was the Department of Damage Control, ran by none other than Tony Stark.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And of course I gave him, angry at Tony Stark, which is really interesting because this movie comes on the heels after Civil War. Well, the entire plot of that movie was how people didn't like the Avengers for causing damage.
Yeah, that was an interesting juxtaposition. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so he continues on that storyline of how some people hate the Avengers. But I do like how it started that way because Spider-Man's story arc started in Civil War. So there's no need to start this movie on Spider-Man quite yet. So I did like how it's a continuation of his story. But what did you think of when they did introduce Spider-Man, how they did it through home video?
Did it through a video diary?
Exactly.
I really enjoyed that because it felt natural. It felt like something any teenager would do because that was a really important thing in this movie. The teenagers actually felt like teenagers.
Yes.
They look like teenagers, which I suppose helped too.
This is true, and I like how Kevin Feige is his name?
Yes.
Yes, I got a name right. Yay, this is progress for me. But I did like how he says that I want to make movies that, for example, Captain America Winter Soldier is, I want to make a spy thriller, but with superheroes. To this, it's kind of like, feels like I want to make a high school drama, but with superheroes, but at the same time, the drama wasn't like over the top. The drama was not really drama, it was people in situations it was teenagers trying to, just work through some problems or some situations that we all have to go through. And this happens to be, and that's how I felt. You don't feel that way?
I was just a really funny sentence.
Oh, was it?
It wasn't drama. It was just these things, and then you perfectly described drama.
Well, I mean by drama in the sense of people being focused on two small things. I mean, you have a lot of drama that's like, oh, well, this person said this about me, or this person did that, and this person stating this person, they're stating that type of drama. I'm talking about drama in the sense of sensible, reasonable, actual practical drama that you have to take care of. Serious conversations you would be in anyway, or conversations you have to deal with, situations you have to figure out. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
It goes back to the entire thing I said about, it's a high school drama without it being stupid drama, I guess is the best way to describe it.
I mean, it still had those moments though. Like, think about it. It had the dang academic ball, which caused drama in this movie, which is a distinctly high school thing.
Yes, I guess what I mean is drama. It was not over the top drama. Like
that's fine, but it was just funny the way you were describing it.
I understand that. I'm trying the best I can, Paul. I'm trying my best.
Well, you are half of this podcast, so I do expect a certain degree of eloquence.
There we go against the elegance. We have two guys with speech impediments asking for elegance.
Eloquence.
I rest my case. But, I mean, is there anything else about the plot that you like?
As you said, just the simplicity. Because I always love simple plots. There I go saying love again. Mm-hmm. I always enjoy simple plots because that means you can focus more time on characters. There wasn't any real intrigue in this movie. There wasn't any, ooh, I wonder what this is going to do. Ooh, I wonder what this is going to do. It was straightforward, but it still was a very good character journey.
It was a character journey. And speaking of the characters, what is your thoughts on Spider-Man and Peter Parker's character?
I enjoyed Tom Holland's performance. Tom Holland was fantastic. And what helped in this movie is the fact that he had a dancer background. Mm-hmm. He has a stage background. And you could tell. And because of that, he was able to do a ton of his own stunts. So it made the action look more natural. Yeah. And he was a good Peter Parker, and he was a good Spider-Man. I
know the other two Spider-Mans. Tobey Maguire. I know that his Spider-Man started off this entire superhero movie. Renaissance, exactly. But at the same time, I didn't buy into his Peter Parker, and I didn't. I mean, Spider-Man for me has always been a talker. He's always been like over the top. I don't want to say over the top, but he's always been shooting out one-liners.
Yeah.
And always very
snarky
and talkative. And I feel like then you had, and the others, the Amazing Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, his Spider-Man was a bit better, but his Peter Parker was pretty much emo.
His Peter Parker was worse than Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker.
I know, well, that's the thing. It wasn't a balance. It's like, the reason why I like Ben Affleck's Batman is because you have three aspects to Batman. You have the Bruce Wayne facade persona, you have the Bruce Wayne tormented persona, and you have the Batman persona, all three. And I felt like his Batman did a good job of balancing them all out. Same thing with Spider-Man. I feel like the Peter Parker was really good. He was nerdy. He was, nervous. He was, he was really relatable.
He was awkward.
He was awkward, and it was believable. And his Spider-Man. And the thing I like about this movie is the relatability of it, because he was, like we said, he was way in over his head, and it's relatable because we would be in over our heads. He's been, for the longest time, the Avengers and the cinema universe has been going on, and Sony has had the Spider-Man license away from Marvel, and it feels like Spider-Man has been always looking in to that. And I love how the way they decided to do the story, because they fed on that. They took that the situation they were in and actually made it into a story. And Spider-Man was looking into it when we were able to be relatable because we're looking into it. That scene where we had the diary where he's like saying, "Oh, those Captain America and those are the other guys." We would say that too. Or the scene where he's trying to do his best to be a Spider-Man. We would be that too. He's really crappy at his job. We would be too.
I kind of really like that decision though. The fact that they did show him being terrible at it for a while.
But at the same time, thinking that he could take on more than he could take on.
We all feel that way sometimes. Talking about the relatableness of the characters, like the fact that when he hacks his suit to take away the training, basically.
Yeah, or the track. Well, he originally did it to take away the tracker that Tony Stark put in the suit, but they found a system in there was like, the baby mode. Let's turn this baby mode off, and that basically unlocked the entire potential of the suit. He didn't know what was going on.
And it led to some very funny scenes, though.
Yeah,
when he was talking to, I guess you say Karen.
Yeah, Karen was the name.
Was just like, which of these 530-something web options would you like?
Yeah, well, just pick one. And he's like, the here's one. And he keeps shooting like web taser. And really good because he's about to attack some of the group of the villains. And in that moment, he was just stumbling over himself. And I really do enjoy that aspect of it too. I also just love the supporting cast too. I like Ned.
Ned was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Just because, first off, he had some great lines. I especially love when he's talking to Peter and he's asking all these dumb questions. That spider bite, did it hurt?
Yeah, or like, how far can you shoot your webs? And I mean, that's what we would ask too.
I know I'd be asking those questions. And his fascination with being the guy in the chair.
Oh yeah.
I like that because, well, first off, frankly, if I'm a superhero sidekick, I want to be the guy in the chair. There's no chance of me ever being a superhero. Like,
there's no chance. Unless you get bit by a radioactive spider or...
Even then, I'm not athletic enough for that. Yeah. I would try to swing on a web and break the web and break my neck.
Well, that's what happens with this character. I mean, so many times Spider-Man fell flat on his face, which once again goes back to the relatability of his character. But I did love the nerdiness of it because there's a couple of scenes where he's like, I bought this Death Star Lego, and he had a toy X-wing in Parker's room, and I really do just enjoy there's one part where he's like, can I be in the chair? And then while he's in the computer lab, helping Peter, he's like, I'm in the chair at one point. So he's a great sidekick and a very good friend.
He was obviously a great friend. The other kid actors, though, they were there.
I mean, they were there, but I mean, this movie wasn't about them. This movie was about Peter and about him becoming Spider-Man, and I love his hero's journey.
And I did like the fact that Ned got to help out, though.
Yes.
Like the fact that he literally saved Peter at the end of the movie.
He did, and he also found out, and that he was willing to keep the secret, and I love how these writers are letting other of the side characters in the secret too. It's not something that, only the superhero is, holding on to. The secret that is only holding to the hero. But now, what do you think of Micheal Keaton's villain? One of the scenes that really sticks out is the fact that here's Peter Parker talking to a girl he likes at work, which is Liz. Really falling in love with her. And I really do love the scene where he asked her out to the prom. And so there's a entire scene about him Peter asking Aunt May, I need your help. What do I do? What do I wear? How do I go about this? So Aunt May drops him off at Liz's house. And at this time, he's been trying to stop Micheal Keaton's business because they've been selling weapons.
He's seen Micheal Keaton at this point.
Yeah.
Because there was this whole battle on the ferry where he screwed up. He severely screwed up.
Yeah. Now that's what goes back to something about, him And I love Tony Stark's. What do you think of Tony Stark's cameos?
Watching the trailers and looking at the posters, I was really worried Tony Stark was going to be in the movie too much. I was. That didn't happen. He was only in it when he needed to be.
Yeah, and
even later in the film, you'll know the scene I'm talking about when he's lifting the building off of him after it collapses on him. I was like, please don't have Tony Stark save him in this scene. I was actually worried about that in the back of my mind because that would have dulled the emotional impact of the scene.
Yeah, that scene was really powerful too.
And he was in this movie just enough.
Yeah.
And frankly, they featured him in the trailers and the poster a lot more than they needed to.
Yeah. I mean, they needed somebody in the movie to make it connected. He was that bridge between Spider-Man and the Avengers.
Yeah.
And it was the most logical one because he got it all started.
But what I do love is in this movie, though, we do see Tony say, if you're not more than the suit, you don't deserve to wear the suit.
I think the line was, if you think you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it.
But still, my point is, that line is powerful because we've saw Tony learn that. Mm-hmm. He's not just speaking as a mentor. He's not just speaking as a character we were just introduced to. He's speaking as someone we've saw learn that. We saw Tony learn that in Iron Man 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When he wouldn't get out of his suit. When he basically made himself his Iron Man persona and left Tony Stark behind. Mm-hmm. We saw him learn that. So now we're trying to see him teach Peter that. And there's literally no one better for that than Tony.
This is true. And I do love Peter's journey because, he's been trying to prove himself to Stark, like, I can be an Avenger. His entire movie, he wants to be the Avenger because he just had this amazing experience. He wants more of that, but he's not realizing, cherish the moment and cherish the people in your life now. And there was one moment in the movie where he's at Washington Monument. Well, he joined a team that goes on, I don't know what
the academic bowl team.
Exactly, and they went to Washington, but he did that to follow the bad guys. They found one of the aliens' device or gun that had this energy crystal, which is basically a bomb. It has all this energy. So that caused the crisis. Because the team was going up the Washington Monument, and the elevator got stuck. I just love that sequence because when he was running up the monument, you kind of think to yourself, Iron Man and all the other heroes probably would have found a quicker and more efficient way up to the top. Well, not for Peter. He got stuck in the moment. He didn't know what else to do, so he started climbing. And it was a very tense scene because when he got to the top, his suit did come with a parachute, but an earlier scene, he had to use that. So he doesn't have a parachute, so if he falls, he's dead. It's a very tense scene, but I do like it because it just shows his willingness to be the hero, and he's trying really hard to save his friends, and it's exactly the moment that Stark was looking for, but not the moment he was wanting to show.
Exactly, because in this movie, for the first 75% of the movie, he's basically a hero for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. We saw in the other films that they became heroes organically, like Captain America. He became a hero to take down Hydra. We saw Iron Man and why he became a hero, because he knew he was on the wrong side. In this, Spider-Man's only a hero for a little bit before he gets sucked into the Avengers. So he kind of gets sucked in way too soon, and they even acknowledge that. Because he gets way too caught up on, hey, I want to be an Avenger, I want to be in the big boys club, before focusing on being, as they say frequently in the film, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, which is what he needs to be.
It's a great contrast because, as you said, all the other origin stories has always been a build-up. Tony Stark built into that moment. He had to create the suit. He had to test the suit. He went out and did one small skirmish. Then he built onto it. Captain America, same thing. Captain America didn't become a hero at first. He became a propaganda star where he was telling people to buy war bonds and went on tours to entertain the troops. And then that's when he became a hero. And it's a really good contrast because Spider-Man didn't take that journey. He was trying to jump the gun.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect of it. And it really goes back to the entire sequence, and the twist of this one was a really good twist because we were going back to it, that he asked Liz out to the prom. And at this point, he's been stopping basically Micheal Keaton's character's gun trafficking and business, interrupting it. And it's very important because when he was stopped at the house, knocked on the door, and at this point, Micheal Keaton answered the door. And he was in the doorway of Liz's house, and at this point, I'm like, wait, oh, shoot, did you just find out where she lived and kidnapped? How did you find out that he was interested in her? And then he said, hello, I'm so-and-so, I'm Liz's dad.
I really enjoyed that, just because we've talked about the simplicity of the plot, and we've talked about that a bit, but this shot, actually threw me for a loop when watching the film, and I was like, wait, Because it actually made perfect sense on rewatches. They had distinctly tried to hide any mention of her dad. They had distinctly hide any mention of her family.
Mm-hmm. His family, yeah.
And they did a really good job. It was a legitimately good twist. Shyamalan needs to watch this movie.
One of the reasons why is because you see Peter doing all these other things, and you see him caught up in help and trying, and they got out of the way all the other stuff that they needed to get out of the way, like the ferry scene, or like him chasing down villains. The audience got so focused on that aspect that when they pulled the twist, it did come out of nowhere because they were able to have other things take place. And I did love that scene because he was in the house, because Peter knows who Micheal Keaton's character is. He already discovered his identity. So he's there, but Micheal Keaton didn't know. He just thought, oh, he's just another kid from high school, and doing the dad thing, asking him all these questions. And Peter's like, well, I'm too young to drink. And the dad's like, that's the right answer. But then the dad's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take you to the prom. So they're in the car with Keaton's character driving. And Liz keeps on talking about Peter's internship with Tony Stark. And that suddenly is like, really, Michael, as Keaton said. And then Liz said, well, we went to Washington, but you were only there for a second. And suddenly you were gone.
And I really like that.
Yeah.
Because even while watching that, I'm like, shut up, Liz. Shut up, Liz. Shut up.
Exactly. This movie is very tense-filled. They had these great scenes that increased tension. And you could see the gears turning in Michael Keaton's head.
Well, I really enjoy that scene, too. Because, again, I love Michael Keaton. He's such a good actor. And the way that scene is shot, you see his eyes in the mirror. And he's watching Peter. And Peter's being his nervous, awkward teenager self.
Exactly.
And Michael Keaton's really smart. So he's figuring things out. You just see all the subtle acting in his eyes. You see all the little subtle movements. And it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. And then they get to the prom and the homecoming dance. And he's like,
to Liz, go inside. Let me have the dad talk with Peter. And oh yeah, of course. But it was not the dad talk.
No, it was not. At that point, they each knew the other knew.
Yeah. So
it was like...
Here's the deal. Family is everything to me. And he put out a gun while he was saying this. Yeah. Family is everything to me. And, you're a good kid. I'll give you this chance to just walk away. Go in there and stay away from my family. Stay away from my business. Now go in there and show my daughter a good time. I'm like, oh, man. And I really do like that twist because at that point... Peter did like Liz, so that gave him a dilemma. And we talked about this, or we saw a video about, what does it take to create a good protagonist. And the video introduced the idea that the protagonist has to give the hero, or force the hero to make choices that, he normally wouldn't make, have to choose to make these choices. And that's exactly what this character did for Peter, or for Spider-Man. He forced Spider-Man to choose. Do you let this guy go in order to date the girl that you liked? Or do you risk either killing this person or putting this Michael Keaton's character in jail? If he did that, that would cause pain on the family, which in the end, it did.
It did, because of course Michael Keaton's captured. Of course he goes to jail. But what'd you think about the scene with him, the final battle scene, I guess you would say?
Well, before we get into that, the one scene I want to get into is that, we always discussed this, but the scene where he's under the rubble.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a very important scene, and I do enjoy the scene, because at this point, Peter Parker has been in over his head. Like we said, he's relatable, so when he's buried under the rubble, he starts screaming for help. He realizes he's now gotten himself way in over his head. He is stuck. And he starts screaming for help, and he starts crying. And there's a very powerful and emotional scene, because we've all been in that situation where we felt like this is a no man's land, and there's no way out of it. And the actor just did a great job of selling that scene.
Well, I love that they let it...
Play out,
yeah. That's the word I was going to use. Because the scene lasts a good 20 or 30 seconds after the rubble falls on him. And you can see his face, and you can feel the helplessness. Because had they changed scenes or changed anything at that point, it wouldn't have had its weight. And I love that they let the scene stay and let it have its weight.
And there was no music either. It was just silent. But it was a very important scene, because that's when he truly became a hero. That's when he realized what what it takes to be a hero.
And he understood the risk involved. He's like, I'm not doing this to be an Avenger. I understand what's at stake. Yeah. Which is something I've really enjoyed about this film. Because in a lot of films, DC, Wonder Woman, or DC, Marvel, whatever universe you want to say, the stakes just get way too big.
Yeah.
Like, not every film needs to have a world-ending catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. Because they're not going to end the world. I think Independence Day was the only film that I've known so far that did it right, where you felt like they keep on losing. Are they ever actually going to win? So when the climax comes, when they all for the final time attack the spaceship, you get this hurrah because they had so much. They just kept on losing. But in movies like The Avengers, you don't have those moments.
Exactly, you don't you. And in this, you actually didn't know what was going to happen.
No.
I mean, you didn't know what was going to happen to Michael Keaton's character. You knew Peter wouldn't intentionally kill him.
Yeah.
Because that's already been firmly established.
Yeah.
But you didn't know if he would incidentally die.
Yeah. And basically the climax is just him trying to stop Michael Keaton stealing Tony Stark's stuff. Because throughout the movie, Tony Stark's assistant is moving Stark Tower, and they're moving everything to a new location. And so here the assistant is just overseeing the entire moving process. All the final stuff that needed to be loaded onto a cargo ship did. And Marky was going to steal that. And Spider-Man stopped him. And that was the only thing he did. He didn't stop the world from being destroyed by an asteroid or an army from another universe.
He didn't save an entire city.
No, he just stopped someone stealing stuff out of an airplane.
Yeah.
And it's like, still, but the action in that moment was really good.
If you say so.
Not what, you didn't think it was good?
It was distracting. Because I couldn't help thinking, it's a jet. Mm-hmm. Jets fly fast.
Okay.
But yet Peter Parker is hanging onto the side of this with the web.
Yeah. You're probably only one of the few who probably get upset.
It was just like, and how does he breathe up there? Like fighter jet pilots, they have to be, the cabins on jumbo jets have to be pressurized.
Let me ask you this question. In Star Wars, how does a laser change direction out of nowhere?
That's Star Wars. This is Spider-Man.
But this is a superhero film. I mean, you have to give away some sense of disbelief.
I know, but I don't know. I just couldn't.
This is not, if this was like Singer's List, I could understand that type of stuff.
Then the fact that the plane crashes and then they both survive the plane crash. He's on the outside of the plane when it crashes, and he still survives the plane crash.
Superhero movie. You have to have those sequences in order for these movies to work. You know that. Come on. It's like...
I do know that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's so egregious, it's distracting. And at that point, I couldn't help thinking about it. I couldn't.
Okay, you still saw the action.
Yeah, I still enjoy... I've already talked about the action, though.
Yeah.
I've talked about the fact that I loved the action in this film because so much of it was done using Tom Holland.
Yeah. But I think another thing that makes the action so good was it was tenseful because, again... he goes back to the point that Peter Parker is not fluid in his action. He's in over his head, and you do care about what happens to him.
And even
he headed for an engine, and you're like, oh, how is he gonna get out of it? Because Iron Man, yeah, he's gonna punch his way out. Captain America probably is gonna do something spectacular. Superman will punch it, Batman will do it, but you don't know what he's going to do because you haven't seen him in that do it, and that's I think elevate this action to the next level.
I'll definitely agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. I will.
Yeah, so...
Because even the opening scene, when he's trying to take down the van, because you can kind of see the people that are doing that have been playing with our toys for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So he's up against people that are frankly better than he is.
Yeah.
Because Vulture is...
He's been doing it for
the movie says 8 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So we can assume by this point, Spider-Man's been Spider-Man for like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Whereas Vulture's been Vulture for years.
Exactly. That's another thing I didn't really enjoy. It was simplistic. It was relatable. And in the end, what did you think of the ending of this movie?
I really enjoyed it because Spider-Man has a lot of like two-way villains. Mm-hmm. Where they're villains, but sometimes they work for a common good.
Yeah.
And I like that the movie kind of acknowledged that. Like, Michael Keaton is talking to Scorpion.
In the jail, yeah.
And Scorpion in the jail, and Scorpion's like, hey, I heard you know who Spider-Man actually is. Michael Keaton says, if I knew who Spider-Man was, he would already be dead.
That was the line, yeah. I did like that, because in the end, Spider-Man did save Michael Keaton's character.
Yeah.
Even though that Liz is now her family had to move to Oregon. He had to say goodbye to her, and he was the reason why he had... Because at the end of the film, I was kind of wondering what he would do. Would he let Michael Keaton go? Would he keep Michael Keaton there? And I'm like, well, yeah, he did the right thing by turning him in.
Yeah.
But it did cause pain. And that's the thing about that, going back to the protagonist thing about forcing the hero to make tough decisions. Mm-hmm. I did like the end where he was called by Tony Stark, and Tony Stark was about to give him the chance. He got exactly what he was waiting for. He was given a new suit, and he was going to be part of the Avengers.
Well, first off, that suit was beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
I can't wait to see people cosplay that this year because I know people are already working on cosplaying that.
Yeah,
there's no chance of that not happening.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. Really, I think so.
And I kind of like how they played it off. Like Robert Downey Jr. is like, "Hey, I have journalists in there ready to introduce you as the newest Marvel Avengers," and he's like, "Well, I've decided."
I will be that everyday in your everyday neighborhood spider.
Yeah.
And Tony's like, "You sure? It's not an offer. I'm offering every day." And then Peter walks away and saying, "This was a test, right?" And so Tony's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, it was a test. Oh yeah." And then suddenly, Gwyneth Paltrow's character comes out with the reporters in the back.
Yeah. First off, that was clever, but I also like the fact that it did illustrate his character growth, though. He was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm not ready for that yet, and I do want to focus on protecting
the city,
protecting my neighborhood." Because he doesn't even worry about protecting all of New York. He only focuses on protecting. Is it Brooklyn or Queens? Queens, yeah. He focuses on Queens, and I've always loved how small scale Spider-Man is.
Oh, interesting fun fact. Do you want to know how you can remember the difference between Brooklyn and Queens?
How?
He had a New York Mets hat in his apartment, and if you're from Queens, you're a Mets fan because it's closer to that. If you're a Yankees fan, you're from Bronx.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was a cool little fun fact. If I know you're not a baseball fan, but that's a fun thing to remember if you.
How does this compare to the other Spider-Man films for you?
For me, I definitely think this movie definitely blows the Amazing ones out of the water. There's no comparison.
I would completely agree with you on that because in the Amazing ones, you had a frankly bad Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He had a decent Spider-Man, but he was not good as Peter Parker.
No, and in the original, like 2001, I have to be honest, I really do enjoy the Tobey and Maguire ones. I don't understand.
Even Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, even Spider-Man 2. I don't know why. I just didn't like Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I mean, after seeing this performance, I'm like, oh, he blew that out of the water.
I don't know. To me, they're neck and neck. Because I love Sam Raimi. I love what Sam Raimi accomplished with the Spider-Man films.
No, well, I appreciate what the X-Men movies did and what the Spider-Man movies did. I appreciate that because they brought the superhero movies, like we said, into the Renaissance time. What they did was, they laid the foundation and they showed that you can do a superhero film with seriousness and do it good, and people will buy into it. And without them setting the foundation between X-Men and Spider-Man, you wouldn't have a cinema universe.
I mean, that's exactly fair, but I still think Spider-Man 2 is like the second best superhero film, period.
Why?
Alfred Molina.
I mean, that's the only reason why.
And the Aunt May talks to Peter about what it means to be a hero. People wanting to get a glimpse of Spider-Man. And even that glimpse being able to change his life, about what heroes do to people. And it's still one of the best movie villains. Part of what makes a movie, for me, is a strong antagonist. And Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2 was fantastic. We had saw him build a relationship with Tobey Maguire prior to becoming a villain. He was an incredibly sympathetic villain. He had gotten in it for all the right reasons, but he got in over his head. He become a villain. And then the train scene. I will forever love the train scene.
Okay.
In Spider-Man 2. It's like they kind of tried to pay homage to it in this Spider-Man Homecoming because they know how beloved that scene is. It didn't have the same weight to me. The ferry scene didn't.
Yeah, I understand because at that point you had the second movie. I do think that this movie, and I like the style better. This movie takes it a bit more serious, and the Tobey Maguire movies were more tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be. It's a superhero movie. I get that. I'm not...
and it's the same Raimi style. I mean, he is the dude behind Evil Dead 2.
Yes. So I'm not dishing it because of that, but I just like the style better. Something about it is more grounding, and it's more... It has a modern twist to it, but at the same time, it does have its tongue-in-cheek. It fits really well in the Marvel formula. But, I don't know. I enjoy this movie. This is I think if I was to say, what's my favorite? Guardians is still on my favorite list. And then I have Ant-Man, and then I have this one on my favorite Marvel.
Ant-Man's that high?
Yeah, I love Ant-Man, and I love Ant-Man's character. I just love the story. I love how simplistic it was. I just love everything about Ant-Man.
I don't like ranking films.
I understand you don't, but if I had to, that's if I had to do it, that would be my rank with the.
Okay. I don't understand the situation in which you would have to rank movies, but whatever.
Yeah, I understand.
One of the clever things in this movie, okay. I kind of just now thought of this. It's kind of odd to end the movie with, but Amazing Spider-Man 2, when Gwen Stacy died, the way she died was by falling off and Peter catching her with a thing and her back still breaking. I thought that was really clever. In this movie, they kind of had an homage to that. With the fact when Liz was falling and then they caught her. Because I honestly thought they may kill off Liz in that point.
Yeah.
Like, it was a little early in the movie for that, but I was like, that's still really clever, and it was still homage while still being tense. So I thought it was kind of cool.
All right, cool. So, but, man, I think we have to go, though. I mean, we talked about this movie to death.
We did.
Yeah. Any shout-outs you want to give before we leave?
There's a podcast I'm friends with on Twitter. I've listened to a couple of episodes. They're a great couple of guys. How have you not seen?
Is that a question?
Kind of, because that's how their episodes are structured. There's two guys, and they discuss a movie. Like, one of the guys has seen a movie, and then the other guy has not. So it's like, hey, how haven't you seen this movie? So it's kind of like, hey, you should watch this movie. This is why. It's a really good podcast. I listened to one of their episodes on Snowpiercer. It was fantastic, and I've been a fan ever since. Though truthfully, I have seen most of the movies they've talked about.
That's good. That's great. So you know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
All right. Give them a listen. But before we go, tell the audience what we're going to be talking about next week.
I'm actually kind of excited. The film we're going to be talking about is one I haven't seen before.
Yes.
It's actually Galaxy Quest. I know the movie has a ton of fans, but yet I've never gotten around to seeing it.
Me growing up being a Star Trek fan.
I am not a Star Trek fan.
There's a lot of shout-outs to Star Trek that you just have to laugh at. And like, I get it, I understand. There's a lot of things like, this is great. So, but I think you can enjoy the movie because even if you're not a Star Trek fan, it is definitely a really funny movie and has really good performances. The plot is simple, a lot of good jokes, a lot of good timing. So
this is a comedy?
It is a comedy, yes.
Okay, this is the first time we've done a comedy.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, well, hey, we're moving up in the world. But now we have to leave.
Unfortunately.
Yes, we do. As always, I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
And you've been listening to the CNC Geekcast.